All right, I feel like there needs to be a drum roll here, but we are at the... Oh, thank you. We are at the final. This is it. The final song on Eric Hutchinson's fantastic new record, Before and After Life, Postcards from the Other Side. And I do want to mention, as we were going through this whole day, it was raining and horrible. Then it was beautiful with a sunset and actual rainbow. And now it's dark. So we reached the end and Postcards from the Other Side.
Thematically, we're right where we need to be.
It's true. I kind of feel it. All right, so let's let the listeners in on this. I must admit, I didn't write much about this, mainly because I ran out of time. But also no, because you said it perfectly when we first got here. You said that's the one song that kind of encapsulates all this. So let's go through it. Let's go through the song. I do want to ask you, since I don't have it really fresh in my head and I don't have many notes, musically, where were the origins of this, and how did you put this together, and musically where?
This was the last song I wrote for the album, and for me, it felt like thematically the album needed some sort of a resting place, kind of. There had been sort of Born in the Dark is sort of it's not a complete idea. It's sort of questions. It's questions. There's not like any kind of guarantees. And the other, Life After Life and Hell were both kind of fun, and they're in the afterworld, but they're both also. So this was sort of a definitive idea of like, what if nothing happens after you die? And this is sort of singing about that from the other side of. But I found that to be very relieving personally. That idea that like you could get somewhere and that would just be it. And so the way I heard the song was very healing. And again, sort of, thinking about my mother-in-law passing away and some of my friends who have lost parents. And I found these lyrics to be very healing. Some people maybe wouldn't because they want to believe in an afterlife, and they totally should. I just could have felt like this sounds like a nice thing, too, for somebody else to go to, if like a place where it just ends. So, this is sort of an exercise of you hit the lights and that's it.
It reminds me a little bit, the lyrics of, were you a MASH fan? Did you ever watch MASH?
I know it. I didn't watch very much.
Of MASH. Well, we're from a different generation, so I will say that that was one of my faves in the early 70s, throughout the 70s, early 80s. There's an episode in there called Sometimes You Don't Hear the Bullet. And it's a story about a guy who's, I don't remember the specifics of it, but I remember that. And it was because it was about a writer, like an AP writer or somebody following a platoon. A kid gets shot. And he says, wow, I can't believe it. I didn't even hear it.
Right.
And so he thought he would name the book that. And, of course, being a writer, it always stuck with me. It's one of the moments from that show. It reminds me of that. It's kind of like sometimes you don't even know. Like the opening lines here, and when I finally die, it's like nothing dramatic happened. There's no drama to any of it sometimes. It just happens. And that's the scary thing about existence and non-existence, I think. And a lot of stuff you're talking about with having a child and bringing it into the world and all the unknowns to all that.
Yeah. there's unknowns before you die and after you die. You know, it's like bookends. You're bookended by the unknown.
Yes.
And yeah, for me, like I said, I found a lot of peace in this song.
Those first lines. I mean, and when I finally died, I want to make sure I got this right because I didn't have the title in here. And when I finally died, didn't feel a thing inside, didn't go all black and white, wasn't some inviting light, didn't get an angel guide. There was nothing when I finally died. It sounds way worse when I'm saying it.
No, I like it the way you're reading it, and that again, I think that could be a scary thought to some people, but to me, that sounds kind of nice. Of like, and then I go on to explain, you know, all the pain I ever felt, unbuckled like a safety belt, all the hurt I ever dealt, found a way to finally melt. Didn't feel some great divide. There was nothing when I finally died.
All the pain I ever felt, unbuckled like a safety belt. All the hurt I ever dealt, found a way to finally melt. Didn't feel some great divide. There was nothing when I finally died.
And again, it's sort of just the idea that and that's like a Buddhist exercise. There's an app actually you can get that just reminds you multiple times a day that you're going to die. I don't know what the app's called, but Google it. But just sort of a Buddhist idea would be you're not going to be here forever, but that's supposed to help you relax in your life to say, oh, this isn't going to matter at some point, you know?
Yeah, because it doesn't allow people to... I never bought into the catechism of, well, we're suffering here, so we can get a reward. The idea that was sold really during the Middle Ages when people suffered greatly. No medicine, no indoor heating or plumbing or any of those things. So, but there'll be heaven. But then as there's an Enlightenment period where people started to understand things, how things work and how we are, that we choose life over that. We choose to be better at what we do. And once I turned 40, for me, was a dramatic thing in a sense where I could see the finish line. Mm-hmm. It's in the distance, but you never know. The finish line could be when I leave here, and then that's it.
Right. And that was, I guess, where the song starts. And when I finally died, my mother-in-law, Betsy, had been sick for a long time. She had cancer. And still, when she died, it was like that. It was not expected. I mean, we knew she was sick, but it was still like she was there, and then she wasn't there, and I wasn't prepared for it. And it's just sort of like, okay, that's it. Lights off, new thing. And sort of in the chorus, I'm talking about that's sort of just this idea that, like, again, you sort of said like walking on the moon, talking about being a baby coming out, and similar thing I would think of like, oh, what if this is the same idea, and then afterwards death is just a totally different thing that we have no idea, and you can run forwards and backwards and hit rewind. And I like this imagery of there was a highway sign, bright green and underlined, and said, you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you.
Right.
Again, I find it peaceful. Some people may find it scary for other people to go through that or for them to go through that, but I liked this idea personally.
Ran forward into time, press pause and hit rewind. Didn't feel like it used to. There was a highway sign, bright green and underlined, said you can't take it with you. You can't take it with you.
But no matter how you feel, though, you have life now.
Right.
This is happening now. Whatever happens... Wherever we go, you can't control that. You're going to go, but this is happening, so enjoy it. Because if you know, like you're saying about the Buddhist app, if you know it's only finite, get the most out of what you can do now. And that's the great juggling act. We didn't talk about it on the podcast, but I need to bring it out for the listeners because I think it wraps it all up. We were talking at lunch about how do you balance being a parent, being a father, and being a creative cat, having that isolated time, going through all the things you need to go through to create. It takes away time you could be... I mean, no matter which way you go, you're going to feel like you've cheated something.
Yeah.
You've either cheated the time with your daughter or you cheated the time of your talent. You've been given a gift, or whatever you want to call it. This is the thing that defines you, writing songs or writing. Do you give that completely up for this other thing? It's a selfless act, but then some people end up blaming the family because they gave this up. How do you balance all of that? I think is a key element of all of this. And we talked about that. So in essence, you got to live life and figure all that stuff out while you're here.
Yeah. And I guess that's one of the things I really notice from the other side of fatherhood is I was aware of this before, but I think I'm really aware of it and starting to learn it now. We're 5 months into me being a dad. I only have a certain amount of energy per day, and where do I want to put it towards? And, how much can go to what? And it's sort of that work-life balance thing that is so popular to talk about right now and that I'm always trying to figure out. And, there's only so much energy in a life, in a day. And so, what do you want to do with it?
Right. Yeah. And if I may, I didn't think of it at first, but this is what I would have thought. This is like your jazz album. This is like your album in a sense, because I'm kind of seeing this and it's revealing itself to me, as opposed to taking notes and then reading it to you. But the final lines on this record is I'm sending postcards from the other side. The other side is fatherhood. Mm-hmm. You were not a father, and you're a father. So in essence, Eric pre-father's dead. And this is the new, no matter which way you look at it, you're not that guy anymore. You got to be this guy. But you learn, you add things to your cart as you go along in life.
And I think that's important that you've added that and said, because I think that's the thing that I think tied these two things together for me when I was feeling in this valley between a funeral and a birth, is they're both, the thing that the living person deals with is I don't know what's coming next, and there's the other side, like you're saying. There's the other side of parenthood. There's the other side of life and death. And just to keep saying it, we have it right now, though. So it's celebrated, I guess. And
right. There's a lot of redemption and forgiveness in all of that, too. You still have another day to make right.
Yeah, and that's what the third verse is here. Everything I ever did didn't count a single bit. All the ways I lived didn't count a single bit. Now, again, that could be really terrible to some people. Oh my gosh, I'd spent all this time doing all this stuff. Or it could be really like a fresh start, and you can let go of all this baggage, or whatever.
Also, to be fair, we were joking, about these terrible people that are in the deeper parts of hell. But I think there's something comforting in people who gain great injustices throughout the world over the years, whether it be racism or genocide or misogyny or all the things that have happened, that you hope the people perpetuate that, pay for that.
Right.
That there's some justice and comeuppance in this world. Where if you die, it was a clean slate. People don't want any clean slates.
Well, this is like I said in the last one about hell. I think the concept behind hell is no, we need something to keep people honest here in the real life, because if they think nothing happens afterwards,
apparently that's not working.
They're going to go off the deep end. Well, who knows how many people we'd have doing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I liked the way the song kind of came together at the end. It had sort of almost like a funeral procession feel to it, and it's smooth in a way that some of the other songs aren't. It's got a smooth alto sax, and I like this idea at the end of where do all the souls collide. I'll send a postcard from the other side. I'm sending postcards from the other side. And like you said, who knows what the other side is? Depends what you're talking about.
begin the album, this is the best part. Now you're
Right.
already over here. Here's some postcards from this best part.
And I guess not to put too fine a point on it, but like that was, I think, part of why it was important for me to record this album before Zelda was born, because like that was the other side. I would have done it differently once I was a father. I know I would have changed things or whatever. I would have had new songs to put on, or I don't know. But it was very important to me to be like, this is a transformative point in my life, and I wanted to capture that.
It's a snapshot. It's a diary, if you will.
Yeah.
Everything I ever didn't count a single bit. All of the ways I lived didn't count a single bit.
One last question. Now that we're at the end. What are your final thoughts? It's a tough spot to put you in, but I got to ask you. I think people want to know. Now that you've done this, is this a departure to Eric Hutchinson's canon? You don't have to answer because you don't know what the future may hold. But this experience, could you see doing a record with a whole new slew of musicians? Could you see going back to doing something else? Can you see this as a transitory record where you're now moving, like with Fatherhood? Or is it just something that you tried, you're glad you did it, but it might be a one-shot off? People will want to know. How do you feel when you've done with this? Do you think about what the next step is?
Well, I think it's a good reminder that no matter how much I want it to sound different, it'll always be me on some level, And like you said, there's some parts that are very me no matter what. And that part is good because I feel like I can stretch into other genres and it'll still work. But I enjoyed doing this, and I enjoyed... I look at having different instruments and different musicians as having a whole new palette to paint with, really. And maybe I'll use some of these people. I don't exactly know, but one thing I enjoyed and that I'm interested in doing again is sort of working within the ideas of what are the rules of a certain genre, and then like how do those inform how I write the song, So it's like by placing certain guidelines on it, it changed the way I wrote the songs here. And I'd like to keep doing that stuff. I'm interested in lots of kinds of music, and I've tried to incorporate as much as possible into my songs, but I'm continually interested in like what else is out there and what kind of music can I make that isn't just redoing what I've already done.
And also from a narrative standpoint, you might want to put yourself in a character. And I know you say you're working on or have thought about working in the theater construct.
Yeah.
Is the idea of writing a song or a series of songs from the standpoint of a woman, or a series of songs from the standpoint of a Latino youth, or a series of songs as from an old man.
Right.
Those kind of
I'm getting to that one soon.
Yeah.
So.
But that's the kind of thing that I think about Joni Mitchell, somebody who had a great arc in her career, but she wrote Both Sides Now, a song about looking back on life, learning about it, understanding all the pain and hurt and joy that comes with that. She was 21 years old. Then she re-sang it again in a series of recordings with some beautiful Vince Mendoza string arrangements. And then she's singing it as a 60-something-year-old. And there's a great scene in the book about her, and the author's name escapes me, but it was a fantastic book I read last year, was it? About Joni. And even the title's escaping me. But anyway, there's a great scene in that book in which she goes to see an older woman sing Both Sides Now. And she's like, this is it! That's the way it's supposed to be. And of course the woman was like, what are you saying, I'm old?
Right,
Instead of embracing it. And then she was able to do it later. So I like that she's 21 years old and she's writing about an older woman looking back on her life. And I like that you're taking on what it'd be like to be dead, but I wonder if there's something from a character narrative standpoint, not just musically, that you would inhabit a character and write a whole series of songs like that.
It's funny you bring up that Joni Mitchell song, because that song was a big inspiration for this album, and her work and the way that she worked in sort of the jazz world while still maintaining her Joni Mitchellness, and went out and found musicians to work with like Charles Mingus and Jaco Pastorius and stuff, to me was an inspiration. And literally some of the chord tuning she used, like for that song, might even been for this song, I'm not sure, but she's always been an artist that's like interested in continuing to see what else is out there. So,
Right.
I mean, that's the thing for me. I just don't want to repeat myself, and I want to be excited about the projects I'm doing. I mean, that's what got me excited, was putting all these musicians together and finding something new. I mean, an idea I've been talking about for a long time is I'd like to make like a grunge album.
That's
or
what I'm
like
talking about.
90s
right.
alternative album that sort of I'm sort of kicking some ideas in my head right now, but like sort of an homage to my youth, which that music was popular and everything. And so I don't know. It's like, can I do that music? Can I make that work? But again, there's very specific rules in 90s rock that don't necessarily are not the same rules that jazz music has, or like a soul song. So to me, it's interesting of like, well, what's exciting? What's different? And what do I have to like figure out how to do, pretty much? I mean, at this point in my life, making an album is like, how do I figure this out? And the album is sort of the sound of me figuring it out. And you were there watching me do it on the fly. And, again, this is sort of a record of a time and an event. So I'm happy I get to share it with you listeners and with you, James. So, it means a lot to me to, like I said at the very beginning of this, I was at the point now where I was thinking about this conversation as I was finishing the songs, or constructing the ideas of like, they've got to stand up to several podcasts worth of questioning, so
So this is coming.
yeah, so it's good to, it helps give me something substantial to try to find in it all. And I feel lucky I get to do it, and it just been in a place of real gratitude since Zelda was born, and these songs again are sort of a snapshot of that time period, waiting for it all to happen.
A postcard from the other side, if you will.
Yes.
Well,
exactly.
without being too maudlin, I do want to wrap up by saying it was Reckless Daughter is the name of that Joni Mitchell book. It's fantastic. This has been a true pleasure. I have always been honored to write about your work, that you share it with me. I've always been enamored, as Eric will tell you, and we both are, with songwriters and how songs are constructed and what they do and where they come from. And he's always been very open with me on that. And I wrote songs when I was in my 20s, and I know my way around a song, and I know what makes a song work or not work. So for him to give me this opportunity to talk to a songwriter that I truly do, and I must admit, I really do love your work. It's not like I have to go, oh, Eric's going to send me stuff, I hope I like it. I know I'm going to like it, and I'll be totally honest with you. Modern Happiness still blows me away. I mean, this is a great record, and it's straightforward, and I love whatever it's doing. I put that in the pantheon of my favorite records. So to be able to talk to you about this stuff, and this is the last thing I'll say to wrap it up, I thank you for that. And I thank for everybody for listening, allowing us to talk about this, asking questions. And I know a lot of people that listen to this are on your eHutch Club. It was great meeting you. We never mentioned this, the weekend that you had, and the trivia questions that I asked. Everybody was so friendly. It was a great night. I really appreciated that. So I hope you do that again. Yeah. And if you do, I hope I'm part of it, because I kind of feel like, an eHutch Club. I pay my dues every month.
You're a card-carrying member.
I am. And but even beyond that, to be able to see my friend now after so many years, and an artist that I really dig, to share this stuff, thanks a lot, man. This is a lot of fun to do this.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all for listening. You have a final comment you'd like to make to the fans before we bid them adieu?
Just thanks for listening. I know it starts with people like James who want to listen to the music, but that's the stuff that keeps me interested in making stuff, is who am I expressing myself to. So thank you for listening, and hope you enjoyed this record.
Where do all the souls collide? I send a postcard from the other side. I'm sending postcards from the other side. Sending postcards from the other side.